News You Need is a look at current events and how they affect the college community and beyond. And now here's the host of News You Need, Dr. Ed Simpson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting edition of News You Need. And hey, we're still gathering our guests here, too, which is amazing. So this is the show where we talk to the most amazing people in the whole world, which is our USM students. And we talk about what's in the news and what are our USM students talking about. And of course, the reason we care is that news is the weather report for your society. It's the idea that there are these issues that are coming at you as a community, as a community member, and that you need to know what those issues are in order to make decisions about which direction your community should go. So that's why we care. That's why the news is so exciting, and that's why it is the foundation of everything in society, which makes it also more exciting. So we do have some guests with us today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, maybe your hometown, maybe your major, what year you're in, and if you're involved with any student groups here on campus. Let's go ahead.
I'm Hannah Dover, born and raised in Meridian, Mississippi. I'm a media and entertainment arts management student here at USM, and I'm a transfer student, so this is my first semester, but I'm technically a junior.
Excellent.
Oh, I'm involved in the SM2 radio station. I'm the Monday, Wednesday producer, and then I'm also a part of the Digital Nest.
Oh, love that.
Well, okay, that's awesome. Well, I'm really glad to be joining you guys today. It's a really special opportunity. My name is Liam Cronin. It's kind of hard to pinpoint a hometown for me. I was actually born in Fort Worth, Texas, and I've moved around roughly every 4 years of my life. So I actually just moved back here from Toronto, from the province of Ontario in Canada.
Wow.
I lived there for the past 2 years. I really enjoyed it. I'm a freshman here at USM. I'm studying political science. Pre-law, and my minors are Spanish and applied economics. And
wow.
I really enjoy studying here on campus. I'm involved in the honors program and the Lucky Day program, and I'm also actually a member of the speech and debate team.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so Digital Nest, what is it, and what are you guys up to?
So right now with the Digital Nest, it's kind of it's a group of students who all come together we've got audio students, we've got like visual students who work with film, and we all come together. Some people shoot like short film projects, where right now I'm helping with the Spooky Hollow, which is coming
excellent.
up.
Excellent.
It's an awesome little drive-through experience for children around Halloween time. So we have little stations set up of different little stories that you can drive through. It's a nice little experience for the kids. And I'm also helping with some Hub City sessions and a few of my friends' short film projects.
Wow, I love that. I love how busy our Digital Nest folks are. I think that's great. So Media and Entertainment Arts is here in the School of Media and Communication,
yes,
right?
It
So
is.
I love that. And I love that you're jumping into SM2, which I think is super. So tell us about the speech and debate. What are you guys up to?
So speech and debate actually is just kicking up this year. We're really starting. The past couple weeks, we had an interest meeting. A lot of people showed out. And then after that, the numbers kind of started to dwindle down a little bit. They always do. That's what I've been told. But I really enjoy the aspect of it. I didn't realize that speech and debate is so intricate, because you have speech, which, there's tons of events that you have for speech, events that I had never even heard of. You have events that range from persuasive speaking to after dinner talk. It's very, very interesting. And then the debate side of things, I really love it because there's a lot of research. And there's a lot of things that you can do within a short period of time to prepare an argument. And, sometimes you have to defend things that maybe you're not exactly on par with. Sometimes you have to defend an opinion that you're not sure about yourself, but you have to sell it. You have to put it on. You have to do the research, and you have to convince yourself. So we actually have our first tournament coming up. It's this upcoming weekend. It's online.
Oh.
So we're starting off with, I guess, a smooth entrance online. And then later in the fall, we kick it off with some traveling tournaments. But it's a really good program.
Yeah, welcome. Speech and debate is here in the school too, so it's kind of an all media School of Media and Communication day today, which is great. I love that. I actually judged the last couple of debates we hosted here on campus, and it's one of the most interesting things you can do. So it's just fascinating. So welcome. I really appreciate you jumping on speech and debate.
Thank you so much for
having me.
having
And my
me.
argument is there are two things you can do if you want to go to law school, there are two great things you can do. One is jump on the speech and debate team. The other is be a journalist.
There you go.
And because both require deep research, critical thinking, and the ability to put complex things in a simple way and be persuasive.
I 100% agree.
That's my argument.
That's something that I've definitely seen since I've joined speech and debate. Is I remember our first practice that we actually had a mock debate, and we sat down, we did some research. I came up with my statement. We cross-examined. I mean, I felt like I was in a courtroom. So if you're a student listening to this from USM and you're even thinking about going to law school, speech and debate's a great way to go.
It really is, and it's a really good community too. I think you're going to find they become good friends.
100%.
You know, traveling together forces you to be good friends. So that's really good. Okay, so guys, tell me, what are our USM students talking about? What's big? What's in the news for our USM students?
Let's see. Homecoming is coming up at some point soon.
I hear that a
believe.
lot. A lot of our groups are preparing for homecoming. It's usually the sororities that are kind of consumed
Yes.
So
with
true.
homecoming.
I've seen a lot of. I'm pretty sure today's voting day for like
Oh.
homecoming
Mhm.
court.
Really?
Today's the first day, so
I'm
it's the
pretty
first
sure.
day that the ballots opened, and so I'm sure if you're a student and you've been walking on campus, you've probably been
Oh,
swarmed
yes.
by people
Yeah.
that are
All over
that are
social
there running
media.
all over
I've
social
seen
media.
everybody's.
Okay,
like,
that's fast. So people are campaigning to be on the court.
So they're campaigning for different positions, and so
So do we have a homecoming king and queen still? Or is it like homecoming
I think.
person?
So what we may or may not have a homecoming king and queen, but one of the big positions that I've been seeing is actually Mr. Southern Miss.
Yes.
I
And
had
so
no idea.
Mr. Southern Miss, I can't speak on if there is a Mrs. Southern Miss because I do not know.
Yeah, I haven't
But
seen.
one of my friends is actually running.
Oh,
for-
there
he's
you go.
actually
Okay, give him a
campaigning
shout out.
for-
Give him a shout
yeah,
out.
so Dylan Little is
Okay.
running. He's running, and he really is a great guy.
And what
so-
are the qualities that we want in a Mr. Southern Miss?
Definitely someone who's outgoing and like they speak about the things that they care about and they
Really?
do action for the things they care about.
Yeah.
Because
Really?
I mean, like yeah, people can like you. You can be funny.
Don't you have to be like a good-looking
So-
dude?
Well,
I get.
well, maybe that may be part of it, but one thing that specifically speaking about Dylan, I think that he's a good candidate for it, and so not to give him any promotion here, but whenever I think of some qualities that someone may have to be Southern Miss, his slogan that he's running by is actually "You're not alone," and
that's
so he was
awesome.
actually one of the first people that I met here on the campus, and he always talked to me, he always remembered my name. And, you know, he was always there. He always gave me advice. He always invited me to things. And that was something that meant a lot to me. So I feel like he's very involved. He's involved in a lot of different organizations. And I feel like that's something that also should be expected of someone that's running for such a position.
Oh, for
Someone that's
sure.
You know,
really
I
involved.
actually, I love that you're not alone. And so someone coming in from Ontario, Canada, is this your first time to Mississippi?
No, it is actually not. So I was mentioned.
Okay, well, we sorry. So we're trying to do better with our rundown. Both of our listeners who were here with us last week know that we had a little bit of problem with our rundown. So we are going to take a break, and then we're going to pick up actually with being new or maybe not new to Hattiesburg on the other side.
Okay.
Sponsorship comes from Signature Magazine, the Pine Belt's original Seen and Be Seen magazine. Since 2006, Signature has been the Hub City source for arts, music, fashion, food, and more. Signature Magazine is published monthly and available at more than 200 locations throughout the Pine Belt. Signature is also available with the free Hub City Spokes app for Apple and Android phones. Signature Magazine, the Pine Belt's Seen and Be Seen magazine. Since 1927, the Student Prince has been a direct conduit to USM students. Get your share of the more than $600 million USM brings into South Mississippi by advertising your business or service in the Student Prince. To find out more about how to advertise in the Student Prince, email sm2sales@usm.edu.
Okay, we are back. We were just talking about this idea that coming from Ontario, Canada, down to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. So you're not a stranger to Mississippi.
So I'm not a stranger to Mississippi at all. I lived here for 4 years before I moved to Ontario. And so I actually lived in Clinton, right outside of Jackson. And so I was there living in Clinton. I went to school at Central Hines Academy in Raymond.
Oh, okay.
And then I actually graduated and moved to Toronto. And so I moved there I'm actually a member of a local church. And so we were actually there for 2 years doing a lot of community service. And so we were there helping, especially the Latino population.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. And so that is, yeah, that's actually one of the things that, coming to university for the first time can be very stressful, but coming to Mississippi and to university at the same time can be even more stressful. So I really do like that idea. You're not alone. Come see me. So what else? What else are our students talking about? Anything in the news that our students care about?
So, I mean, I'll jump on and obviously say
Sure.
the election. I mean,
Okay,
the
there
election
you
is
go.
a huge topic. I mean, I know that we're going to dive into it a little bit. And we actually had a watching at Lucky Day of the debate. And so
Oh,
it was
interesting.
really, really interesting to see the dynamic because obviously you're at, USM, I would say that we have a very, very diverse student population when it comes to, politics and
For
who believes
sure.
what and different ideologies. And so we were all watching the debate, and one of our mentors actually said, okay, guys, we're going to watch the debate, but we're not going to say anything. You can take your notes, but please, we're not going to jump into any political debating. There's going to be no discussion. Just watch the debate and think. And so
Fascinating. Yeah,
I like
see,
that approach. Yeah.
I don't. No, really. Well, why not talk about it? I mean,
and-
that's interesting.
and that's a great question. And it is a little bit hard because for me, I'm someone who loves to discuss things, and we seem to be very similar in that aspect. And, there were certain things that were said by Trump and also Kamala, obviously. And, some people had some ooh reactions or wow, he really got her or she got him. And it's hard, not to say, well, why don't you think about, for either side. And so that was something that it's really nice to sit back. But at the same time, when there's just little things like that, you do kind of want to jump in and say, hey, you know what? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. So, what are our students talking in terms of election? What are our students focusing on? What's important to them?
I think just with, I guess, the atmosphere of the country currently, it's very, very divided.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, at least with the people that I speak to, there's a big concern for that. It's, yeah, there is two political parties, but we are a country. Like, together, we are all one. This is the USA. And I know I've seen a lot of concern on the fact that, we're getting, like, so divided that everybody's so against each other. You can endorse one person or you could not endorse anybody. You could say one small thing or you couldn't say anything at all, and people will immediately, like, jump at your throat, like, oh, you said this, oh, you said that, so this means this, and this, and this, and that means that you think this and this. And I think that's a big issue in today when people talk about their political opinions and things like that.
Their ideologies. I will say that going back to the original question of what are some topics, obviously, in the election that are discussed quite frequently, and I mean, abortion.
I wondered about that.
I mean, abortion is huge, and most people don't realize that Mississippi is historical. Mississippi, this is where the case actually that overturned Roe v. Wade
The Dobbs
originated. Dobbs versus the Women's Clinic of Jackson. And so it's really interesting because most people, they just say, oh, well, abortion this or abortion that, but they don't actually look further into it. And so it's interesting, you have this case in Texas, you have Roe v. Wade, you have supposedly, Jane Roe, that's actually her pseudonym. So, she goes, Roe v. Wade, it blows up, boom. You have for years Roe v. Wade that stands, and then all of a sudden a small case out of Mississippi gets appealed all the way to the Supreme Court, and then it gets flipped. And so that's something that's really interesting. And I will say, of course, some of the arguments that I have, seen whenever talking or witnessing people discuss abortion are, well, what about people that are in danger, mothers that are in danger? What about rape? What about incest? And these are very, very important things. And it's actually interesting that to this day, abortions haven't been completely banned. That was something that's talked about in actually the presidential debate, is that Trump turned that over to the states. It was turned over to the states, and then the states get to vote on it. And here in Mississippi, actually, we still have the policy to where if a mother's life is in danger or it's a rape that is reported to the police, that abortions actually are still legal. And so most people don't know that. A lot of people that I've talked to in Mississippi say, well, now abortions are illegal in Mississippi. But according to our current politics,
That's a pretty narrow slice of cases there.
It is.
So, what do you think? Are students in favor of the old Roe v. Wade standard, which is where abortions are legal, at the choice of the mother?
I would say absolutely. I say that the
Absolutely.
majority of, including in Lucky Day, I mean, talking specifically about where we are, I don't want to group
Sure,
everyone
yeah.
into one, but what I've seen on campus is that a lot of people are for it. I would say the majority are for it.
So, but you're not.
Well, that's the thing, is it puts me in a tough position, I would say, because I would say that I am slightly right-leaning in my beliefs. I would say I'm a little bit on the conservative side. However, I have 4 sisters, and those sisters have really helped me see the world in a different aspect. So actually,
Interesting.
So one of my sisters, she is very, very pro-choice. She's very, very pro-choice. And then I have another sister who's actually part of the LGBTQ community. And I know that a few things have been added on to that community, but I'm not educated in those. So right now, I'll just mention the LGBTQ community. But they have kind of opened my eyes to understanding different points, and I'm willing to actually listen and to say, you know what, you're right. I agree with you.
So, do you think the abortion issue will drive our young people to go vote that maybe they would not have voted before?
Absolutely.
Are you seeing that with our USM students?
Absolutely. I think that this is one of the, I could totally be stating false facts here, but from what I have seen and in my opinion, I mean, this is a huge influx of college students that are voting. Because, I mean, it really has, the media has helped with that. They've done a really good job getting things out. You know, how often was it in the past that a group of college students got together and watched the presidential debate?
Well, I wish I'd known
know?
about that. I think
You know?
that's great. Did you watch the debate by any chance?
I did not.
You did not, yeah. Now, are you going to vote? How old are you?
I am, yes, I am. I'm planning to vote. I am 20.
You're 20.
Yes.
So, obviously, the assumption is that if the abortion is an issue you care about, you're going to vote Democrat. Is that what you're hearing from our students?
That is what I'm hearing, especially because a couple of the statements that were made, I feel like Kamala did, I wouldn't say a good job, but I feel like she made it it was very, very prominent that if Trump was put into office, that he would basically put out this nationwide abortion ban. And I feel like that right there drove a lot of people to say, okay, it's official, I'm going to vote. Because if that does happen, I want to be able to say, well, at least I did my part, at least I went and voted.
Interesting.
So that's kind of what I've seen from other people. But I really do like your original question of if I am for or against it. And I would say that there are 100% circumstances under which an abortion is valid.
Yeah.
And so each to their own in regards to that situation. But I do believe that there are situations where it is valid.
Yeah. Now, so do our students feel comfortable talking to each other about these kinds of hard issues? Or is that something you're supposed to keep to yourself unless it's in a very specific context?
Personally, I think it needs to be talked about. With this upcoming election, I don't want to say there's so many things that's at stake, but there's so many things that the 2 people running for president completely disagree about. So there's so many things that can happen after this election is over, and I think it's important. Like you said, you said you're slightly right-leaning, but you had that conversation with your sisters and with people who could potentially be of that other side, and it's so important for people to get out there and talk to people who have a different political opinion than you. That way, you can learn and you can see it, because I feel like obviously it's an opinion, so it's very like, this is what I think. But through talking with other people, it becomes more of an educated opinion.
Yeah.
And I know that we don't have tons of time left before we go to our break, but there is something that I would like to mention, and it's just there's different types of media and different types of journalism, and 2 of those are assertion and affirmation. And so those are very, very prominent. And so I think that it is important that we take a step outside of our own media bubble and we talk to others and try to understand their opinion. And that way we can kind of broaden our spectrum.
Yeah. I think we're okay. Yeah, so the next segment's gonna keep on rolling.
Oh,
so
cool.
yeah, so I do want to I want to stay on the media here for just a second. So what you say is so smart, right? This idea that in our current media environment, and I say current because I'm super old. I'm 1.6 billion years old. So, and I'm a former recovering journalist, as some of our faculty say. So I was a reporter for like almost 16 years or so before I got my doctorate and came into higher ed. So the media landscape now is very, very different. So this idea that you only see information that you agree with, and in many cases that you already know about, is very, very real. And this polarization that you've mentioned earlier is and the scholarship is very clear on this. Media is a huge contributor to that polarization, because
Definitely.
if all you consume is what's in your current social media feed, then you never learn anything new. So
Exactly.
talk to me about how you get your media, your information, and then how do you think our USM students generally get their information?
I think I'll begin with the second
Sure.
aspect. So I think it's very commonplace for people, whenever looking at the news or social media, whatever it may be, that they don't necessarily care to see things that don't align with the things that they believe. Or if they do see it, they consider it as oh, this is a great place for me to get in the comments and start arguing with people. I think you see a lot of that
Yeah, that's
in
so true.
modern day.
So true.
But I think it's super important when consuming different types of media and kind of trying to educate yourself. It's so important to make sure that the places you're getting your information from are not biased, that you're not going in and being, I don't want to say influenced to feel this way, but you're going through and reading biased media. Of course, it's going to say that maybe what you think is, oh, this is the only right opinion. You're so smart for thinking this. You need to branch out so that you can understand the topics completely. And maybe there's things, maybe the people who wrote the articles are lying. You never know. You gotta.
And going back to the media, that's so true that there really are different types of media, and the problem is now that the media is also online. And so a lot of people don't understand that media is really anything that portrays a message. And it used to be things that had to be fact-checked, they had to be ran through a certain process before they could be published. But now what we're seeing is it's merged online, so you have what's called journalism of opinion. And so you have this opinion-based journalism that basically allows people to say kind of whatever they want. So it's kind of dangerous.
Yeah, we're going to pick up, actually, we're going to pick up on the other side of the break with some final thoughts on this whole election thing. It's just a little bit crazy. We'll be right back.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of housing discrimination.
It's so wrong.
But who has the power to stop this?
You do. The law is on your side. If you've been discriminated against because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status, file a complaint with HUD. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
Visit HUD.gov/fairhousing, a public service message from HUD and the National Fair Housing Alliance.
Southern Miss Student Media is how USM communication students put their education into action. The student prints, Southern Miss Radio, SM2 and SM2 Creative are the media properties operated by Southern Miss Student Media. You can get your share of the more than $600 million USM brings to the area with help from Southern Miss Student Media. To find out more about how to reach the USM audience, email sm2sales@usm.edu.
Hi, everyone, and we are back. This is always a super fascinating discussion to talk about our students and the media that they consume. So let me just ask you directly, do you watch television at all, television news at all?
Television news, I'm gonna say no. So
Like cable news, cable news?
Cable news I try to steer away from, but actually YouTube is probably gonna be one of my main sources.
So who do you watch on YouTube?
So there's a couple of different channels that I watch. I actually try, this is gonna sound crazy to some people, but I try to go with some right-leaning and some left-leaning, to get a good balance. But there's actually also, I watch a channel, it's called Democracy Now!
Yep.
It's very, very good about updating people on what's going on right now. I feel like it's pretty central. I feel like, they're not super biased.
Well, they would be very happy to hear you say that. Most people consider them very left-leaning. I
Okay.
consider them central, too.
Okay, I would feel that I consider them more central, but that's also one thing that I've seen is most people that categorize a certain news, let's say a news outlet, as super far left or super far right, usually they're being categorized by the opposite. So, if I'm obviously, let's say I'm super far right leaning and I'm watching something like CNN, I'm going to say, oh, wow, it's the worst news that you could ever watch in your life. But that's because I'm so far right leaning that sometimes I'm just completely bashing, and maybe they have a great program that day. Maybe they're not even really discussing something that has to do with US politics. Maybe they're just talking about world politics, but it just depends. But I will say briefly that there was actually a study done not too long ago where there was actually a very, very smart person who did a lot of research, and they actually came up with this chart. And on this chart, they graphed all of the different news outlets. And so
I use that.
And so I actually turned to that as well. I turned to that as well, and I try to, diversify my portfolio a little bit. But that's what I do.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I don't really, I don't have cable, so I don't get cable television. And whenever I'm looking into the news, I try to, like you said, I try to find sources that are credible, sources that are non-biased. I also use that chart that that shows you like which ones are good to look at and which ones are kind of like kind of iffy. And I try to stick to the ones that are non-biased because whenever I get my news and my information, I want to make sure that it's straight factual stuff and it's not something that can be written a certain way to turn my opinion into one thing or the other. And so I always want to make sure that the stuff that I'm learning and the stuff that I'm reading is accurate and actually truly what's happening. Because I think with a lot of, since the media has turned to online, I think a big issue, like we talked about, is that people will just put whatever they want out there. And that is changing how a lot of people, what they think. People will believe some of the craziest things about whether it's the politicians running or just the election in general. So it's really it's very important to make sure you're careful about where you choose.
Yeah.
to
No,
get your
a great
information.
insight, guys. I super appreciate it. So we have just a few seconds left. Give me two other issues that students care about in the election.
Two other issues that I say that they care about in the election are going to be immigration.
Ooh, okay.
Immigration, is going to be so important. There's a lot of things going on in our country pertinent to immigration. And then also classic inflation, the cost
I
of your
think you hit
basic
the
things.
two that everybody cares about.
Those are,
Yeah.
what I've seen on campus.
Yeah, interested. Would you concur in that?
I think that you can also add, I know a lot of people that I know have been discussing LGBTQIA rights, whether that's transgender rights or anything that could fall underneath that topic. I think that's a big thing that a lot of people are passionate about this election.
Okay, well, this has been a great discussion. Thank you guys very much. I tell you, if you ever need a pickup to your day, just listen to our USM students. They are super smart and super amazing, and it makes your heart sing to hear the next generation. You guys are going to have to save us, right? People who look like me screwed it up. You're gonna have to fix it. So this has been a production of Southern Miss Student Media. Our producer is Lillian Scott. Thank you, Lillian. Our videographer is Blake Brooks. Thank you, Blake. And our engineer is Triderica Winters. And we will be back next week, and I suspect we'll also be talking about the election.
This has been News You Need with Dr. Ed Simpson. News You Need airs Friday afternoon at 12:30 on Southern Miss Radio.